Aloha nui kako, mahalo ya oko. Welcome to the last panel of the day. Mahalo for hanging in there. I promise that this will be an inspired discussion about ʻāina front and center. I'm deeply appreciative of being able to help facilitate a conversation with people eager to center ʻāina from the outset, from our introductions. Their pilina to ʻāina, their hana or their work with ʻāina, their aloha ʻāina values, land management and stewardship philosophies, and the legacy, the ʻāina momona legacy that we want to manifest and vision for ourselves. The orienting of this now 40-minute discussion is going to be informed, framed, and kind of bounded by that olelo no'eau that you just heard, that land is chief and man is servant. And we're making good on that sentiment by beginning this conversation with an opening that isn't about CVs, resumes, or achievements, professional achievements, but rather pilina to ʻāina. Whether it's your ku'uone hanao, the story that resonates most with you about land, or about your kuleana with land and our trust lands. So we're going to begin with John DeFries. Mahalo.
Thank you. So when you get to this point in my life, I find myself circling back to teachings that I learned when I was a child. And what you realize is professionally, at least for me, I grew away from the things I had learned, became very intellectual, and today I find myself being very introspective and reflective about it. And one of my kūpuna in our family taught me early that the first Hawaiians were not people. They were elements of nature. They were geographical features. The clouds, the rain, the wind, the ocean, the mauna. 5 months ago, I accepted a position to head the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority. And I turned to a mentor that means a lot to me, and you heard her today keynote on the same topic. Because later in life, she reinforced, as she did today, that we are descendants of these elements of nature. And therefore, the mauna in our kuleana at the authority is really kūpuna, from whom we descend. How that goes about reshaping the making of a state agency like the Mauna Kea Authority is the challenge that lays immediately ahead. So thank you.
And Mahina, your pilina to ʻāina and the work and the values that inform your engagements.
Mahalo Summer. Belina me ke aloha e nā hoa ʻāina, nā hoa makamaka o nei, ʻāina aloha mai Hawaii a hiki aku I ka helelani aloha nui kako. Ke aloha, ke aloha. So there's so many examples, there's so many places that feed and inspire me. I'm Hawaiian, therefore all of Hawaii inspires and feeds and nourishes me. However, one particular ʻāina that I would like to speak to is the ʻāina of Waimea. And the ʻāina of Waimea that has cultivated this very unique leadership style, Waimea Hawaii, that inspired these kūpuna and certain community members, Captain Clay Bertleman and his ohana, to create a new canoe, to create a canoe for this island, so that we could continue on our traditions to wayfind, to navigate, to cross our vast oceans, so we would always know how to return home. And what I want to say is what's inspiring to me is that when I had the great honor of learning from these kūpuna, Auntie Marie Solomon, Uncle Sonny Solomon, Auntie Patty Ann Solomon, Uncle Clay Bertleman, Auntie Dee Dee Bertleman, and so forth, Uncle Shorty Bertleman, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. What really struck me as a 17-year-old is this. Two things. We need everyone to play their roles, every single person to play their role for us to activate a vision, a legacy that's far beyond ourselves. Case in point, when Uncle Clay and his ohana called forth this new canoe blessed by the vision of a very specific kūpuna, we had keiki that would do this penny raise from Punanaleo, Waimea, from Waimea Elementary. We had kūpuna that would drive from as far as Ka'u and Hilo just to bring their pot of stew, right? We had carpenters, we had plumbers that would give their time after hours. And what this taught me from an ʻāina leadership approach is that everyone has a place, everyone has a role, and everyone has a central purpose, which is to love our land. The last thing that inspires me from this ʻāina of this canoe, from the deck of the canoe, as my Uncle Chad says, makali'i, is that let the hands talk. Let the hands talk. There's a place to talk, and we are on this panel, but let our work be the evidence of the intelligence and the brilliance of our kūpuna.
And Kali, your pilina, your relationship to ʻāina, work, life, ohana.
Well, I think I might want to put in the perspective of Prince Jonakuio Kalanianeole. He recognized the importance of the ʻāina, and that's why regarding the situation with the Native Hawaiians, he recognized that the race was disappearing. In 1778, when we first had contact with Captain Cook, there was about 680,000 Native Hawaiians in Hawaii. At the time of the passage of the Act in 1921, there was under 23,000. So about 90% of our Hawaiian race was gone. And he recognized that the ʻāina was really the catalyst to rehabilitating and providing opportunities for the beneficiaries. Unfortunately, with the passage of the Act, the ʻāina that was given to this particular program was very, very poor lands. Fortunately, in 2022, the legislature passed Act 279 that generated or provided close to $600 million to the program. And with that, one of the pivots that we've done with the guidance of the commission is to acquire new lands. And so we have approximately 28 projects. The bulk of them are in new lands that have recently acquired. We're also looking at additional lands to acquire. The importance of the ʻāina is so apparent, and especially where you're trying to develop it to create homesteads. The infrastructure costs in some of the lands that we are presently developing, such as in aliʻi, it's costing us $376,000 per lot to put in just the infrastructure. So we've pivoted and we've identified other lands that to develop the infrastructure in better locations, less costly, and more importantly, it's a lot more attractive to the remaining beneficiaries on our wait list. So it's an exciting time.
Mahalo for that. And we're gonna move pretty seamlessly into and thank you for bridging the conversation, and I'll start with John, about your particular kuleana and the land management philosophy that you bring to bear in that. And we talked a little bit about paradigm shifting, maybe ʻāina managing us, and having ʻāina be the po'o of any organizational chart that with the work that we're all doing. And so if you can elaborate, that would be beautiful.
So when people enter a conversation, the first thing they say to me is, oh, you run the authority that's going to manage the mountain. But in my gut, what I know is that the Mauna is going to end up managing us. the Mauna knows too much, and we need to pay attention to the signs, the signals that we receive from the Mauna. And this is a very different way of contemplating a management model, but it's been called for by the kiaʻi, it's been called for by the community. The authority today would not exist if it wasn't for a focused, well-executed demonstration of cultural commitment and cultural force that galvanized community engagement and community advocacy, coupled with political leadership that was enlightened, and that resulted in Act 255, creating the Mauna Kea Authority, which effective July 1, 2023, triggered a 5-year period of transition to take from the University of Hawaii the kuleana of managing what is the summit of spirituality for all of us.
Wonderful. And, you know, Mahina, picking up on what John has just shared about meeting the moment, like seizing the synergy, the momentum that is now at this time very indigenous-centered, very receptive to centering ʻāina in our conversations, in our processes, even in our engagements, from a place where the default or the status quo has been very different at a time just a few years ago even. So can you lend mana'o on your experience working in that space, utilizing the philosophy that you impart?
Sure, I want to build upon what Uncle John just shared. So, you know, our esteemed cultural practitioners, experts, kumu, there's many things that they have in common. One, which would be they prepare, right? They prepare and prepare and prepare. If you're a voyager, you plan, and maybe 10% is the actual voyage, right? If you're a farmer, you plan for your new crops, and then you implement. So what I want to say real quick is, Auntie Pua laid out this whole methodology of ki ho'i ho'i kana wai in her keynote today. So that is a prime example of how ancestral-based thinking changed the rules, changed the conversation, because she, along with Edith Kanakole Foundation and other invited cultural practitioners and experts, scholars, they were working on this methodology, this report that is very data-based. They published a paper, Ki Ho'i Ho'i Kana Wai. We waited for the right moment, and because of the significant folks that were in the room, I want to call out Auntie Noi Noi Wong Wilson as well as Auntie Pua Kanaka Ole, they implored upon the entire Mauna Kea working group that they utilize this research and methodology that's based in ancestral ways and thinking and values, and then use that as the new framework. I can say this explicitly because I was the co-facilitator of that process with the Mauna Kea working group. This group was stuck. They were stuck in a stand, line across. But as soon as we then pivoted towards what is best for the Mauna as a sacred ancestor, it changed the entire conversation. Now, you might not agree with the Mauna Kea Stewardship Authority as it's laid out today. However, I will say, because of that applied ancestral thinking, it changed the conversation, it changed the frame, therefore, it created the pathway for a new governance structure.
Mahalo. And Kali, you know, sometimes the time and the momentum is ripe for these kinds of seismic changes, and at other times, our land-based kuleana is bounded by regulations, by laws, by processes that are institutionalized and government-oriented. The management of the Hawaiian Homelands Trust is governed by the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. Can you tell us how you discharge that responsibility, but also not, you know, keeping values, our values, the ones that we're talking about today, informing your navigation of those systems?
Yeah, one of the things about the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act is you know, when it was passed, it was incorporated into our Constitution as part of the Admissions Act, and it's part of the requirement for statehood. So the land trust actually was exempted from all subsequent regulatory restrictions that were placed on state lands, as well as other lands. So it, on its face, has kind of a unique status that we've taken advantage of in the development process by not having to go through the rezoning as well as the 21H regarding affordable status, as well as you know, even the permitting process. We've brought on, or I brought on staff to not circumvent, but expedite. Because as a developer, you know, before I took this job, the permitting was a, you know, it was a threshold item that could actually kill projects. So with the advantage statutorily that the department has the entitlements already in place, it's actually resulted in not only us being able to go after projects that have stalled for whatever reasons in the private sector. So we've taken advantage. We've got some projects at major discounts and have been able to move them forward a lot quicker. We also have partnered, for example, Palamanui, a project right across from the Kona Airport. 18 acres is being donated to us by Non-Inc. that's developing a 700-acre master development. We're going to put in kūpuna housing, single-family residential, as well as rental in an area that is very ideal and a part of a master well-planned community. So developers out there have looked to the department as you know, a means to not only get their developments processed to the benefit of the people on our waiting list, that's exclusive use of these developments or objectives, but also we are looking to acquire new lands. We're looking at some state lands, we're looking at other private lands. So it's an exciting time in the sense that we have 29,000 on our wait list. So I got to crank out a lot more development in order to address that to a major extent. Unfortunately, we need about $8 billion to really do the job, but the $600 million is a start. We're going after federal fundings. The counties have started to step up. They're providing funding for some of our infrastructure. In the case of City and County of Honolulu, I have to thank Esther Kiaina, who's moved forward in transferring some land in Kalaheo to the program. This has never been done before, and I think it's a reflection of the comfort level out there that the department has turned over a new leaf. We have a lot of new staff, a lot of young staff that are into development, and we also have you know, opportunities. We're working with the different funding organizations, and so it's a time where we hope to, at least during the time I'm there, generate about 6,000 leases, and you know, whether that is going to make a major difference, I think it is. And so one of the things I'd have to ask those of you that are out there that are on the wait list, make sure your data is up to date. And those of you that are not on the wait list, please you know, apply and get on the waiting list, because a lot of projects are coming down.
You know, picking up on what Kali talked about in terms of like system change and being innovative even in traditionally bounded spaces, I think the Olelo No'eau that's informing this conversation, Mahina, is also compels us to think about our multi-generational legacy, about both our inheritance and our successorship, and how, you know, we are generating new leaders to move and be in these spaces as DHHL is thinking already proactively and with a future orientation about its own internal staff. Can you add to that way of thinking?
Yeah, we're all part of a living mo'okuauhau, right? I'm here because I benefit from my mentors and my kumu and my kūpuna, and the folks that gave me good scoldings. I benefited from all of them too. And so when we see ourselves in this living genealogy of continual advancement of our people for Native Hawaiian rights and Native Hawaiian justice, we all can think about our part. So what I'm thinking about is, like, when I think about multi-generational, the long arc kind of approach, I think we all have to like think about in different seasons of our life, what role are you playing? Are you kind of the tip of the spear person? Are you like the Uncle Kuching or the Auntie Max Kahaulelio or the Uncle Walter Riddy or Uncle Ke'omoku Kapu or Andre Perez and Camille Kalama and the many and the many, many? Or are you more of the kukulu, one of the builders, the ones who's going to build bridges, who's going to create, you know, a more conducive environment for collaborative solution making? Folks like Davis Price at NDN, Shea Kamaka'ala at Hilt, Antinoinoi Wong Wilson? Or are you kind of the person who's going to set forth a new vision? Onohi Paishan, Archie Kalepa, and many folks. Or are you one of the healers, right? Oli'i Hirahara, or many of the pastors within in our community. The point that I'm trying to underscore is that for us to understand our collective legacy, we have to take seriously what is your individual contribution? What is your individual role? And here's the thing, we need to have more productive tension. So, you know, we have folks like you that are at the DOI, Department of Interior. We had folks like you at HTA. I'm in a number of places as a small business owner and entrepreneur. Of course, you at DHL. However, if we get in the way of each other and we become each other's enemies, we are not going to advance our lahui. If we can understand that the folks that are at the tip of the spear, they're going to continue to press. They have to do that. They have to create the discomfort so that the critical mass changes. However, you also need the bridge builders, the folks who are going to come in after the hi'iakas, after Pele has come through, to help transform the environment so that we can create new agreements that are going to bolster economic development and so forth. I can give you more examples, but we can save that for later.
I love the idea of everyone has a role to play, everyone has a spear to carry forward. And going back to you, Kalia, with the trust land legacy, you are doing some pretty innovative things at the department at this moment in time. And if you can speak more specifically to some of that work, some of the executive order proposals to transfer lands in as opposed to out, which is a shift in thinking, a shift in approaching the agricultural subsistence efforts and initiatives, all of those innovative ideas.
Yeah, with respect to the department, we're trying different approaches. You know, the standard turnkey types of housing where you have to pre-qualify, and you know, if you didn't qualify for a mortgage, you were bypassed. And so that has resulted in the Kalima case, where a lot of people were bypassed improperly, and based on the deficiency at the department, part of it was funding, but at the same time it was very, very inefficient. So what we've done is are going to take a more aggressive approach, especially acknowledging the problem where if a person dies, if he's on the wait list, unless that heir is 50% Hawaiian, they lose out. Without a lease, the individuals or family members that are 25% would be able to qualify, but only if there's a lease. So what we've done is, in the development approach, we've put that kind of on the side to run concurrently with the award process, in the sense that initially, we go to the wait list, we will be presenting the different projects we're doing throughout the state, and the next person on the wait list, we don't pre-qualify them. We ask them, are you interested in this project? If you're interested in Puhona or Kaulo'okahai in Kapolei, here's a lease. We'll give them a paper lease. Without, you know, saying, oh, you gotta make a certain income before you can even be considered. And so we'll go down the lease or waiting list, and depending on how many units we're going to develop in a certain project, for example, in Kaulo'okahai, we're going to do 700 units. So we're going to award 700 leases, paper lease or project leases, to the people on the wait list, irrespective of their financial situation. Once the lease is awarded, we'll then vet the people that with the leases and find out what their financial situation If they're kūpuna with very low income, maybe we'll do a LIHTC, or low-income housing tax rent with option to purchase. Or if they have fairly good income, they can do a turnkey. Or if they want to do maybe some sweat, or contribute some sweat equity, we'll key them in or connect them up with Habitat for Humanity. Or if they have the skill set and the connections to build their own house, we'll give them a finished project. But as we go down the list of the examine the 700 people with the award or paper leases or project leases, we'll categorize them based on their income as well as their background as well as their desires. And then we'll tell the developer, these are the recipients and buyers that you're going to have to work with. And so that's where it's really, really important that we get the right type of developers that know how to do affordable housing development, that know how to do the tax credits, that know how to do the bond financing, what are the things that are needed, as well as developers that have a working relationship with Habitat for Humanity. By doing that, we avoid the problem that historically plagued our program, which is bypassing people on the wait list. We can't have that anymore. That's totally, totally inappropriate.
Thank you. Oh, you want another? Another, okay. And then, John, picking up also, continuing on the legacy discussion, if you can focus in a little bit on our OEV leadership model, like how we are developing that. And I say that because it takes, we are a multi-generational panel. You pointed that out to us.
I want to confirm that Kali and I are older.
Yeah. And to that point, we talked about how, it takes deep humility to step into roles of leadership and then to make space for new leaders. But also transferring that kind of authority, that kind of stewardship, kuleana, takes some preparing and takes a lot of generosity in terms of ike and engagement and mentoring. And so if you can elaborate on that, that'd be great.
You know, I joke about Kali and I, but 59 years ago, he and I were on a junior varsity team competing. And it was the first time we met, and I always had tremendous respect for him as an athlete, but I'm even more inspired by what he's doing now. And this speaks to the need, when given the opportunity, to fill the void of leadership that is there. When I was 21, I dropped out of the University of Hawaii after 3 semesters. My father had a great line. He said, "You would make a great astronaut because right now in this home, you're taking up space." Okay. My father could have handled that disappointment in many different ways, okay? But the point was, and back then I wanted to go to Kaho'olawe. I had all this energy, and I had an aunt, Auntie Emma DeFries, who was part of the leadership there, who would run on the island with Walter Ritty and Richard Sawyer. And 3 times I said, "Auntie, I want to go." And 3 times over 3 years, we got to the night before, and she said, "No, you stay home." And the 3rd time she did it, I said, "Why are you doing this to me?" And she said, "You got to stay home, and you got to learn about tourism, because one day all of you are going to come together," okay? When COVID hit, the economy dropped out, summer of 2020, there was an opening at the Hawaii Tourism Authority, and I went for it, right? And did a 3-year stint there, learned a lot, had never worked in state government. Coincidentally, CNHA emerged, and Kuhio can elaborate on what prompted that. The point being that when the opportunity presents itself, it's going to be important that you train, because when the opportunity comes and the kuleana calls, koho'ia, you got to be able to respond. And the same sequence happened with the Mauna Kea Authority. You know, the first people I needed to meet with was the next generation of DeFrieses who live on social media, to prepare them that your uncle is about to get pounded. Okay? But you cannot react emotionally. You got 24/7 access to your uncle, so if you need to sort this out, do it. The opportunity presented itself. We have a 12-member board that is multi-generational, made up of kiaʻe, as well as people from the astronomy community, educators, lineal descendants. That diversity is about to be tested as we move forward in shifting the kuleana at University of Hawaii to the Mauna Kea Authority. The act that created the authority also affirms that astronomy is part of the state's policy, okay? And that was embedded there for a reason, not for that industry to become mediocre, okay? It's incumbent on each one of you, wherever your mana'o is, claim it, own it, and play it to the highest degree. Teach the people around you, because we're going to need that level of intensity on all sides of this equation to move forward into the future. And frankly, I feel privileged and humbled to be where I'm at. So don't pound me.
Uncle John, I totally agree with you. We gotta bring level of intensity that matches the time, right? So I have a question actually to all of us and to all of you. I've been asking around, who of our Native Hawaiian organizations is leading the military lease renewal negotiations? So when we talk about this, this topic, this theme of our future lands, the future of our lands, I mean, that's something that, and I know there were some workshops this morning, I think there's gonna be more panel discussions. However, this is something that has to be discussed, and honestly, I don't know, and I have my ear to the ground. Who's leading the military lease renewals, the negotiations?
On the community side of things. Yeah.
So what would you do? I'm gonna ask you, moderator, because you are an authority yourself.
No, and I was going to say on the community side of things, I mean, you spoke to it as well. Activism is at the core of all of the good evolution that we've seen around Mauna Kea. Even activism back when the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act was still just a seedling of an idea. Savvy statesmanship was the coalescing around creating a trust land inventory that was going to serve those who had been unfairly dispossessed and marginalized. And I think that, I come from a nonprofit legal advocacy background. You have really powerful nonprofit Native Hawaiian legal serving organizations, Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation, Earth Justice. You are going to need those kinds of legal advocates on your side, distilling some of the complexities, but they too absolutely need practitioners. Without practitioners doing the work in community, on the ground, dedicating themselves to protecting and stewarding our ʻāina in the best way possible, that partnership is absolutely necessary. So finding all the ways in which you can coalition build is really important, I think. But Kali, you can add.
Yeah, I think it's very important what you say, especially in specific areas, whether it be legal or whatever. But I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about the bigger picture, the situation overall regarding what is our destiny going into the future. And I think our destiny is going to be basically dependent on how we can work together. And when we look at individual situations, that's fine. But I remember listening to this speech at this businessman meeting or business organization meeting where this individual was talking about back in 1959, you had the Big Five, and they ran the state. And he was commenting about there's this change that's happening and an opportunity relative to the aliʻi trusts, ʻōha, and DHHL. There's been a change in leadership where the Hawaiians are starting and are filling all the key decision-making positions. And when you start to look at the assets, for example, Kamehameha Schools, they're a $15 billion trust with 364,000 acres in the state. You have Liliuokalani Children's Trust. They're close to $1 billion trust with 6,000 acres in the state. The HHL has over 200,000. We have the $600 million settlement that we're implementing, as well as other resources. You have ʻōha that receives 20-something million a year in the city lands revenue, as well as a amount of assets totaling close to 400 million. Queens, they have the resources to do a lot of medical development. And so how are we moving forward in the future? It's going to be very, very important, especially if we can collaborate, work together. Now, the department at our level are starting to do that. We're working with Lunalilo Homes. We've identified maybe 10 different sites where we will provide the land, we'll provide certain financial support that they can go in and use that to leverage and get the funding that they need to put up kūpuna housing. We're working with Kamehameha Schools. We've in the process of doing a land exchange for some of the areas that they have their educational facilities, which in return will provide us with key areas where we can develop as homesteads. ʻōha, we'd like to, and we look forward to working with them on various things, including in the commercial side. With respect to the other aliʻi trusts, it remains to be seen. And so I think that if there can be a collaboration between the aliʻi trusts, we're going to see some major, major impact throughout the state. Because we have the resources, I think we have the desire to improve the conditions of Native Hawaiians, including not only in the personal and family level, but also in business. Right now we're looking at developing some of our lands because of our ability to develop less all these restrictions that others are imposed. We're looking at geothermal energy on the Big Island. We're looking at doing a raceway park in Kalailoa. Just a variety. We're looking at doing hotels, as well as small, we're working with some of the homesteaders associations, like on the Big Island, Waimea, with Mike Hodgson. He's doing a village center like we did in Anakuli with Kamaki, Kanahele. Even in Kapolei, the Kapolei Community Development Corp, they did the whole Maka Market Center. So there's been an activism in the Hawaiian communities that we're excited about, but I'm reaching out to you folks, you that can be a part of that process. Please step up and be a part, because it's an exciting time out there. Thank you.
So Kali's call to action was specifically to aliʻi Trust, to the beneficiaries, the waitlisters, as well as those who are fortunate to have leases. What is your message or call of action, John, to the attendees and Lahui in general?
October 2019, when I went to the Mauna, I happened to arrive right about the time Kaumaka'iwa was preparing for the midday protocol. And what I witnessed was a process that basically caused people to prepare in a way that presented the very best of oneself to Mauna Kea. And I think going forward, in the role and responsibility I now have, that's really what I ask of everyone, is to present the best of yourself to the Mauna.
And Mahina, your call to action.
Sure. So the ʻāina, I'm calling forth. I'm just a small business owner. I have no title in a particular institution or agency or large organization, but I have kuleana, like all of you. And so I'm putting forth an ʻāina mandate. An ʻāina mandate. What if we work to rematriate our governance systems We really work to operationalize our ʻāina-based and ancestral ways of being and thinking into these policy structures, frameworks, decision-making models. Rematriate, to restore a people to their rightful place in sacred relationship to their ancestral lands. Mahalo to our relatives on Mokuhonu who have reintroduced this concept to our conversations. So threefold, we need to demand meaningful engagement and consultation from the beginning, through the middle, and at the end. We need to expect equitable representation. There should be a kanaka at every council, every board of directors, every association. Third, we need to reconfigure our bureaucracies to serve ʻāina first. All of the systems need to be in service of these life-giving forces, as all of the olapa, all the kumu, and Antipua had so well articulated. That is our charge as Hawaiians. We have no other homeland than this ʻāina. And our responsibility is to protect our water sources, to protect our soil, to protect our oceans. So the governance systems is just a tool. We need to reconfigure them, ʻāina first.
Mahalo. Exclamation point. That's the ending of our panel. Mahalo nui, everyone, for joining us.